Thank you, Anjali, for that fine speech. This is our presidential debate, and all of the speakers that you have just heard for are candidates for president-elect in the election tomorrow. I now look to Helen King to continue the case for the opposition.
Madam President, members, guests, it's 36 years since I was in this chamber, and 36 years ago I was sat somewhere around there, and our current Prime Minister was sat where Molly is now. In speaking in opposition to this motion, I clearly want you to vote with what we're going to say, but I also want to challenge you, this House, with what change you are going to have brought about 36 years from now. And I'm going to speak, as some others have, in support of the fact that there are things that are worth sacrifice. And if you want to bring about change, you have to be prepared to make sacrifices. And I feel that I can say that because for 3 decades, after completing my pretty mediocre PPE degree, for 3 decades, I, along with tens of thousands of my colleagues, made sacrifices, and they still do. Being a police officer involves long and disruptive shifts, sometimes more than 24 hours. It often involves working 3 out of 4 weekends. It impacts on your sleep, your health, your social, your family life, and your kids. Just ask mine. It means running into dangerous and threatening situations, putting the safety of strangers before your own. It means being subjected to threats, abuse, and often ill-informed, very public criticism, and sometimes physical assault. And it also means being exposed regularly and unpredictably to tragedy, death, the suffering of others. So you might ask, why am I on this bench rather than that one? And why did I go through those sacrifices? Well, I and the vast majority of police officers in the UK do all that because they want to make society fairer, less unequal. They want to protect the vulnerable and bring those who abuse them to justice. They want to uphold and protect human rights, including the right to protest. I was a public order commander for around 15 years, a firearms commander for longer than that. Human rights aren't easy to balance when the rights of one individual or group conflict with another. But that's what policing in the UK is based upon. Not that they always get it right, but they step up to the challenge of trying to address those really complex issues. And I also wanted to be a police officer because I wanted to hold to account those who abuse the positions of power that they're in. And that includes police officers who should not be in the uniform in that position of power. And so I look back and I'm proud of the colleagues that I worked with, of the crimes prevented, the lives saved, the public events safely conducted, of the communities freed from fear of drug users and gangs. And I remember individuals, the homeless woman whose complaint of rape I investigated, the victims of domestic violence and child abuse, who, as a team with colleagues in other agencies, we helped to escape the abuse they were suffering and start new lives. I'm also thrilled and humbled by the current generation of students at Oxford, by the fact that so many of you really care about changing our world for the better, saving our planet, eradicating bigotry and prejudice and injustice. So why am I standing on this side of the house? Well, I want to make two pretty straightforward arguments. The first is that being angry doesn't make you right. And the second is to say, if you, this house, that's you all as individuals, really want to change the world for the better, you should be more ambitious about the impact that you can have over the rest of your lives than to channel your energies into violent or illegal protest, or maybe even disruptive protest. So, the first thing, being angry doesn't make you right. I've worked with lots of protest groups, and I recognise that violent, illegal, disruptive process is usually driven by sincerely and deeply held beliefs, by anger, by despair at the way the world is. And there is much in the world to be angry about and to despair of. But you know, do we really want our world to be changed by those who are most angry, by those who are most violent, by those who are most emotional? We, this house, have the privilege to live in a liberal democracy. Whatever we think of our current politicians, that is our privilege. And just remember, you may feel angry and despairing, but people with the opposite views of you, so extremists, racists, bigots, Trump supporters, anti-vaxxers, climate change deniers, they hold their beliefs with as much sincerity and with as much anger as you do. So who should those in power listen to? Do we really listen to the angry, violent mob, or are there other ways to bring about change? I don't believe that we can or should allow our democracy to be undermined or overturned by mob rule or by autocratic manipulation of sections of our population. So bringing about change, I want to put to you that all of us in this room tonight are massively privileged, regardless of the background that we come from. Being in Oxford with all the opportunities, that's the educational opportunities, but all the other opportunities that we have, gives you a chance to change the things about the world that you care about most in ways which will have much greater impact than through protest. So yeah, do protest, exercise your right. I did when I was a student. But do it peacefully and lawfully. Vote, campaign. If you really must, when you graduate, join a think tank or a lobbying group. But you know what? If you really care about an issue, if you really want to make change in the world, if you've got determination, persistence, and courage, then you will use the education and the opportunities that you're developing here to join the organisations, to get yourself into those positions of power where you can implement change. Protest and lobbying creates external pressure on those in positions of power and influence. But for real change to happen, you need people inside those institutions, in positions of power, who care but also have the experience, the expertise, the competence to deliver effective change. So that's my challenge to you as individuals. I hope you'll vote with this side of the House. But I hope more than anything else, 36 years from now, you'll be able to reflect on the real difference that you've made in the world. Thank you.